It is February 24th, 2023. That's Arya. She's coming to join me for a little bit, it looks like, probably because I have some food on my desk. Yeah, what's been going on this week? So I mentioned a couple things from last time. Was going to be meeting with folks from .NET Fiddle, so I'll talk about that. Um, some meal coach stuff that we've been looking at, and I'll see what else comes up as I get chatting here. So on the .NET Fiddle stuff, it was a pretty cool conversation. I'm going to be following up with them a little bit more, but I think I think my expectation was that I was going into that call for Aria, nice, um, for me to be able to share with them some of my use cases where I had a couple of issues. I really like using .NET Fiddle, and I use it all on all the webinars and live streams and stuff. So it's just like a I feel like it's a super intuitive way to get people into C sharp without having to download a Visual Studio and stuff. So I had a couple blips, and I thought that on the call they just wanted to hear about that a little bit more, but it was pretty cool. I think we might try doing a little bit of collaboration there. So uh, yeah, like I don't have anything else to really share at this point because there's nothing concrete. So um, I just I hope, and I don't want to say expect, that maybe is too strong of a word, but I kind of have this hope that I'll be able to collaborate with them a little bit more in the future. So that's pretty cool. Super friendly. Um, Trying to think what else to kind of share from that. It was just cool to hear that they run .NET Fiddle because they're into the .NET ecosystem, and like they're they're not they're not like it's free, right? Like that's the thing. So it's it's just interesting that they run it because it's like such a useful thing for the community to have. So I thought that was awesome to hear. Anyway, I will share more updates if anything is progressing there, but overall, pretty awesome conversation. I was happy with how that went. On the meal coach front, I like this week in particular, I just got completely slammed with work stuff. And I'm not saying that to complain by any means. Like I love work. I like to work, and I think what was happening this week in particular was just some of the projects that I have going on. There's a lot of collaboration and coordination with different time zones. So some pretty big projects, and we have people working in different, like across the world on them. So uh, it's challenging because to accommodate, it can mean on particular days starting early to be able to coordinate with time zones like India, and then to coordinate with time zones like in China, it might mean that I'm on later. So if I have both in a given day, it means that my day is quite long. Um, but I should add too, like the reason I'm not complaining about that is that I I don't have there's no pressure from anyone in the leadership hierarchy as far as I've been connected to that's ever been like, well, too bad, and like make sure that your butt is in your seat, like regardless of whether or not you had to work extra time. In fact, it's literally quite the opposite, where it's like, look, like you're not you're not expected that you're going to be working a week where every work day is 10 to 12 hours. Like no, like if you're working extra, like sure that comes up, and for even for people that aren't in a management position that comes up, right? But it's like when it does, like be kind to yourself. It doesn't mean like too bad you just lost out on like personal time. Like take a longer lunch, like start the next day a little bit later or end a little earlier if you're able to, like. And for me this week it was kind of crappy just because there was so much going on that I couldn't really try to be kind to myself in terms of giving time back. So it's just been a little bit hectic that way. But the other thing I acknowledge is like I do expect that in my role. Like I want to be transparent that I don't feel that it is an expectation placed on me in stone, like from Microsoft or like anytime I've worked anywhere, um, that like you just have to work extra and work long hours. But My opinion is that if I feel like in order for me to do my job effectively, and the parts of my job that I enjoy are actually empowering people and making progress on things, that's going to mean that there are situations where I have to do this, and that's totally cool. Yes, it can be taxing. Yes, it's a problem if it goes on indefinitely, but it doesn't. Where I was working before, um, it might have gone on like indefinitely, but that was no one's fault but my own. Like I leaned into that a lot. So anyway, what I'm just trying to get across is like it's been pretty challenging to get some time this particular week. So that's no fault of like not having things to do in meal coach. I think actually we had a really good chat again last night. Yeah, it's Friday. So we had a good chat last night and yeah, I have a handful of things that I got to code up. We got some good direction going on, but I'm waiting till after work today and Saturday, Sunday to crank out some stuff. So pretty excited about that. I'm trying to think what to share on that. We're building like a check-in process for like week over week iteration, so that people can get better meal plan recommendations and things like that. And I'm working on the back end API for that. So um, the person working on the front end has done like a pretty tremendous job. Like we work super well together on this stuff. We are pretty aligned with how we kind of like to approach things. So it's just about some of the details, right? So, I might start something up and say, here's an API you can hit. He might go to use it and go, hey, it's pretty good, but like we got to change one or two things, and he'll code it up on his side so that it'll work that way, and then I make the adjustments, and then we're laughing. We can both kind of make progress and not be concerned like blocking each other, like having friction, resenting each other because something wasn't designed perfectly, whatever. It's really cool that way. So um, I gotta catch up on some of that stuff. So I will be doing that, and I will have time for it this weekend, which is great. So that's probably all on the meal coach stuff. Probably also worth mentioning that just as we are making some progress in these particular areas, we're still kind of like doing this comparison for like who like I don't sometimes I don't like using the word competitor because I don't see it. People can argue this, I guess. I don't see some of the stuff we end up looking at as like, oh, like these things can't possibly coexist. In fact, I'm like, they can and they should, but sometimes they're similar things. Um, I just don't think that it necessarily equates to like you must be stealing users. So anyway, we're kind of looking at some comparables or competitors or similar things in some of the space that is a not a tangent, a bit. I guess maybe you could argue a bit of a tangent to like specifically meal plan stuff and just trying to get some insights there. So we continue to explore that. That's pretty exciting. But yeah, that'll wrap up the meal coach stuff, I think. Probably last thing to touch on is just like social media and content creation. So um, I've been it's been a little bit slower getting shorts from Jamal. Again, I talk with him, so I'm not like I don't I don't say this like oh you should feel bad, not at all. Like Jamal and I went into this like fully acknowledging like we both have we both have jobs. There is no money being made off of this. It's just content creation. We're learning from each other. So he's got a ton of stuff going on too, and I don't want him to ever and this goes for anyone. I don't anyone I'm working with. I never want them to feel guilty if they have other priorities, and when I look at what he's got going on, those are priorities over some of this stuff. Um so I it's not a matter of like resentment or anything. Like he's got shit going on. So I want him to take care of that first. So it's just meant that some of the content creation this week and the week before has just been a little slower, specifically around shorts. Um, that kind of content for me is it's taxing, especially for the what goes into it and what you get out of it. I mean, literally every piece of content being created right now has no monetary outcome. So it's my time going in or Jamal's time going in, and like it's not like there's like all this money like falling from the sky on us or something. In fact, there's negative money. So um, negative money and time use. So it's just a matter of like how to do it optimally, right? The In my opinion, the content creation must continue. It's not a matter of like, oh, like what content do we just stop creating? It's no, keep creating it, keep going at full speed, and instead of cutting back on where to post and how much content to create, sorry, it's how do you do it more effectively. So what I've noticed this past week, so past 2 weeks, I've been doing like my own short creation, which is fine. Um, but if I look at the variations I've done for that, if I do a remix of a YouTube video that's out, it's quick. It's pretty damn quick. I can trim a piece out that I like. The YouTube app for doing it is it's a pain in the ass. Like I can't stand it, but it's quick. Then I can syndicate that across different platforms. Um, really, the honestly the hardest part about doing that is just like picking music. The YouTube, I'm hopeful that when someone's watching this in the future, they'll say, "Oh, like that must be ridiculous." But the YouTube app on Android is literally broken. The official YouTube account has tweeted back to me to say this, but if you try to put music onto a short from your Android phone, it literally will replace your audio. You cannot change the volume of the music independently from your audio on the video, which is nuts. It's an absurd disadvantage to anyone creating shorts from an Android phone because you can't get the discoverability of the music, or you do, but you can't have any voice. So that's bullshit. So the music selection is the hardest part, and then I have to do it 3 times because YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok because I'm not gonna pay for music, apply it to a video, and then share it across 3 platforms when I'm not paying for that. Like I don't make money off of it. So anyway, I have to do it 3 times. Now, what was happening on top of that was I would go post to like I don't know, like 10 different social media platforms to share it out. And it's just getting to the point that if I'm recording stuff, especially if it's not a remix and I have to go make a video, even if it's less than 60 seconds in the end, it takes me 1 to 2 hours to do. And I do not have time every single day to do that, then go post it to all these platforms. It's insanity. So where I'm going with this is that I just started automating some of the content syndication. So there's another cost. I'm going to be using Zapier to basically automate some of the blasting out of like, hey, like YouTube videos posted, cool, go tweet it. Um, that way, for what I consider the currently, I'm going to call them low value channels because the engagement's super low. Not because I don't think that there's a benefit to there, and not that I don't think that I want to post content there. But like, let's take something like Tumblr. I get I have like no engagement on Tumblr. I've had a Tumblr account for like what, like 12 years or something nuts? No, maybe not that long. Close to that, 10 years, whatever. It's got like no followers. Now, I haven't posted for that huge gap in the middle since I was making content before, but the follower base is just not growing. So for me to go spend the time on it, it sucks. Like it feels terrible. But if I can just automate the post to that, sure. Now, that will allow me to pick my top platforms with priority where I can go engage on them more proactively. So, for example, I can engage on Twitter, I can have conversations on Twitter. LinkedIn, I want to spend more time on because I think that type of audience needs more work. Um, but Tumblr, sure, I can post stuff up. I post to Pinterest. I'm not having conversations and comments on Pinterest or anything. I don't even know if you can, but I'll post the content there so it's available. But anyway, paying for that from Zapier now. And I'm just hoping, like, notice in the past couple days, I had to spend the time setting up the automation. But even today, like, I used a remix blasted it to social media from Zapier, and then that let me save a ton of time, at least an hour off my day. And if I look at the monthly cost for Zapier compared to the hourly rate that I make it work, it's it's worth it. Um, Now, I would love for the, the hourly rate that I make from content creation and stuff in the future to be comparable to that. So that's how I look at that, to try and justify it. But regardless, this video is getting kind of long already. I just wanted to share that like I'm trying not to slow down on content creation, just finding more optimal ways to do it because the amount of content should not reduce. If anything, it should be more and more and more, but the amount of time that goes into that should not proportionally scale to the amount of content, or else I feel like I'm doing it wrong. So, anyway, I think that's it for today. Thanks so much, future people. I hope that you find these interesting, and we'll see you next week.